Hello everybody, it is Andrew's Weather Predictions here. I have a detailed weather update for you all today. Right now I have a winter storm ongoing across portions of the south right now. We also have some severe weather going on in here currently. And I will actually go ahead and show you that right now as we start. We have a pretty significant supercell here with two strong areas of rotation in south central Alabama. So that is something to watch. This radar is about 908 feet up, so it's very close to the surface, and we can tell that there's pretty distinct rotations. Who knows, there might even be a little bit of a CC if we can get down in there and check it out. No CC drop, but pretty strong area of rotation down there, associated with a supercell thunderstorm. This has been severe warned for a while, but it just went unwarned. As you can see here, really don't have too much happening right now, but if we go over to the Weather Prediction Center's page, we are expecting some severe weather across these areas today, actually, in here as well. Lower that pen size down a little bit, but you can definitely see there's severe potential across this area over the next few days. We look at the next day here, we start to see Dixie Alley is going to be under the gun here, and we could be talking about a pretty significant day, which I will talk about here in a second. Winter storm for the north. I actually will see some thunderstorms and flooding with this, and then as we move along with day 3, we also have a significant risk for severe weather on day 3 across this area. So, wrong eraser. So, looking at the Storm Prediction Center, currently we have an enhanced risk today. A watch is unlikely across that warm front. Here's your day 1 outlook. We have a 5% risk of tornadoes from Mississippi all the way up into northern Oklahoma and into portions of the Texas Panhandle. We have a 15% risk for wind for a couple of small areas, a large 15% risk for hail, including a significant chance, and actually a 30% chance and an enhanced today, so we're really going to have to watch that. Then tomorrow, here's the big day. A moderate risk has been issued. I'll show you my outlook in a second for today, but very, very similar to my outlook, actually, what this BC did. Not exact, of course, but I'm pretty darn close to what they did. They have a large moderate risk with a 15 hatched risk of tornadoes. My 10 hatched is a bit bigger because I think there's a bit of more of a significant risk of tornadoes a little bit further south, but you have a 30% sig wind and a 30% sig hail. And here's what I did. So last night I didn't have enough time to make a wind outlook, so I wasn't able to do that, but here's my tornado risk. So I went 15% hatched across a pretty darn similar area to what the Storm Prediction Center did. Now, mine's not quite exact, but they added a little bit more into Arkansas, but it's pretty close to what I had it. Then I went moderate risk for my outlook, a little bit larger of a marginal than they have, pretty decent size slight, pretty large, enhanced as well. If we do go ahead and look, actually we're not going to look at any observed soundings. Day 3 is also going to be a significant day. We're going to have a risk for significant wind gusts and tornadoes in this area, and Weather Prime Tyler's actually in this risk, and he's probably going to be chasing a little bit, so we'll have to see what happens with that. Here's your current environment. We have that supercell in a pretty decent environment. If you look at your significant tornado parameter using 0 to 500 SRH, you see there's a 1 right there, so there's definitely potential for that to have some tornadic activity. If we do update you, it's still looking pretty nasty. We have a pretty decent amount of surface-based cave. This area in Oklahoma is capped, but it's going to get uncapped later tonight. Your lapse rates in the middle levels, they're marginal, but they're still there. And then your lower levels are actually pretty good. Your helicity, it's pretty marginal. And with that, 0 to 3 is not terrible as well. Now, let's look into the HRRR model. First off, and this is mainly going to be the model that we're going to be using. We're going to be using the 18Z run. I haven't seen this yet, so we'll see if this is interesting. We'll first talk about the risk that we have tonight, and we're just going to be going over and looking at reflectivity. So let's first go over here and talk about the risk we have tonight. So we look ahead at tonight. See here we have our thunderstorms that have bubbled up. Right around, this is probably 10 p.m. now, I think. Right around 10 p.m. we get thunderstorms to develop in here, in here, in here, in here, and all along the warmer front. Some of these, I wouldn't be surprised to see an isolated strong tornado today, because there are soundings that support maybe one strong tornado tonight with the QLCS. This is actually a pretty good sounding right here. That supports some large hail, wind gusts, and tornadic potential. You look over here, this is probably going to be an elevated sounding, I would guess. Yeah, this is an elevated sounding mainly of hail, mainly with hail risk. Oh, I accidentally forwarded that a little bit too far. Move along with the night, we start to see these supercells along the warm front. They lift further north along with the warm front because, of course, the warm front lifts north. Pretty self-explanatory. And then right around midnight, we start to see discrete supercells start to form along the dry line in Texas. And then we start to see our QLCS up here really get going. Just a hail risk of 30 hatched is what the Storm Prediction Center has. Down here, these storms could have a tornado risk with them. You see here, this is not very supportive of a tornado risk, of course, but some of them could. Soundings up here are actually pretty decent as well. This would definitely support a tornado risk as well. As you can see, low pressure really starts to spit out stuff at 8Z in the morning. And then we see Arkansas light up in the morning along the warm front. Pretty good sounding there. That would support isolated potential for tornadoes. And then right around 14Z, we start to see a very clear warm sector. Then we have bubbling cumulus, and then supercells erupt right in this area. And then we start to see a QLCS take shape for this area with embedded supercells. So we're going to have many areas to watch tomorrow. The moderate's probably going to be there you really want to keep an eye on. And then, boom, we have more supercells that form in front of the QLCS, and even up into southern Illinois, and that progresses along. We're going to stop it at around 22Z or so. We're going to go a little bit further to the east. We have so many supercells across this warm sector. We have them all the way across this area, and this is why they went 15 hashed. A lot of supercells and the QLCS. Widespread risk for severe weather is looking likely tomorrow. And actually, something I forgot to mention, the Storm Prediction Center even mentions potential for a high risk if this continues. So that is a rare signature. You don't see that very often. So we may end up actually seeing a high risk with this. Now, of course, this isn't really a high risk sounding, but it'll support a moderate to enhanced with that. You look at these supercells in Alabama. At this point, the lower level jet hasn't kicked in unless you're like in Louisiana. And yeah, it's pretty good over there. But the main tornado risk is going to be overnight, which is never a good thing when you say the main tornado risk is going to be overnight. Here's further east across Georgia. And actually, that could support isolated strong tornadoes if this occurred. We have pretty good dew point here. I need to change my pen color to red. We have pretty good overall sounding here. We have good little cape, and we have good lapse rates, and we have decent veering. We have high shear, which will be enough to support a tornado threat. So that's actually interesting. We'll have to watch that Georgia warm front area. But of course, your main threat is going to be across Mississippi and Alabama with these supercells and the QLCS. If I take a sounding in front of the QLCS, you see very well veered. I mean, the lower level lapse rates are pretty marginal, but this is nighttime. Like, this is not a good thing. Look at that Hodo. Very supportive for tornadoes. There's also going to be a damaging wind potential because of this D cape being pretty high. 3 cape's also very high. You usually want 3 cape of a little bit over 100, or a little bit over 75 or so to 100, and we have that. Here's your lower level gen energy at this point, and it really just starts cranking across the warm sector. Anything in the red, I believe, is 50 plus knots, and that yellow right here, that is 65, I believe. 65 plus knots, yep. So we're going to change this color to green. So yeah, you can definitely see across the warm sector there, very significant. As we play along here at 3Z is when it really starts kicking in, and we could have a really bad overnight tornado risk. With that amount of energy and the lower level jet energy like that, that's never a good thing. And we see that QLCS is tracking into an area where it hasn't really been touched for a while. Now, There is potential for there to be a few fail modes with this, and that's why the Storm Prediction Center is waiting to go high risk, and I don't think they're going to go high risk with this right now, but it's possible, and you can't rule it out the window. But as you see here, another round of thunderstorms fires behind the old one there, and oh my good glory, that's a very, very large photograph, 800 SRH, very decent K for the morning hours. That would support some tornadic potential across northwestern Georgia, but anywhere in this area, right in, oh, actually there's a lot more of a larger area, but anywhere in this area really needs to watch that overnight threat, and even a little bit further south as well. If you move along here, 12Z, it really starts kicking in, and this is when Tyler's risk is pretty high. I mean, you got large photographs. The Cape is pretty weak at this point. I'll take a sounding up by him. It's probably going to be contaminated because, yeah, that's in the middle of the line of thunderstorms, but you see here, this is a classic signature of QLCS tornadoes. Look at all these embedded supercells within the line. Very classic, and who knows, day 3 could go moderate if things are pretty significant with it. Wow, that's a very good sounding. Lots of veering in the lower levels, high instability, a dry slot. That's not a good thing. If there's any dry slot in Dixie, usually it's never a good thing. That's kind of a little bit of a dew point depression, but still. We're gonna jump up to the mid-Atlantic now, where there's a second wave of thunderstorms developing, and look at that. Looky here, a second wave of supercells is developing from the Western Carolinas in through this area. Now, one fail mode with this is that the convection right here ruins the instability, which is definitely possible, which is why I would only say enhanced at this point, but it starts clearing out, and I mean, very significant swath of thunderstorms here with some embedded supercells and tornadic risk for sure. I mean, that's a pretty supportive sounding right there. Look at that dry slot. It's going to really enhance instability. This HRR run doesn't even go out that far. And actually, there's actually an area of 1,000 joules per kilogram of keeping, even 2,000 ahead of that QLCS. That's not good. Your lower level jet energy, it is off the charts. Still 40, 50 knots. That'll do it for a significant tornado risk. Let's look in the Carolinas here, right there. That's actually, let's look at like right here. Should probably be. So you got 2,500 Cape and 200 SRH. Never a good combo. We'll see if we get. See what we have here. 1,000 Cape with 300 SRH and supportive lapse rates. That's not good. And the HRR only goes out to this point, so that's a little bit annoying, but we can take more soundings at like 3Z in the middle of the morning here, or 5Z. Let's take a look at some soundings across. Oh goodness, yeah. You actually have some discrete supercells out in front there with a pretty good environment. If the SPC was to go high, it would probably be somewhere like this, because this is where the most significant supercells and the most significant linear structures are going to be, which is pretty interesting, honestly. I have grandparents in the risk, which is not good, but holy cow. So we have 1,000 Cape with this sounding, a lot of SRH, and a large HODO. That's going to support a significant tornado risk and a significant wind risk as well because of all that lower level jet energy. I would not be surprised to see the Storm Prediction Center upgrade to a 45% significant risk of damaging wind gusts across this area due to the fact that there's going to be a lot of lower level jet energy. Holy cow, 3,000 joules per kilogram of Cape. Not a thing you want to see with Dixie, and this event is pretty cloudy too, so never a good thing when you can get that much. 250 SRH, 70 dew points all the way that far north, and a decent hodograph. Yeah, that's definitely going to support a significant tornado threat. And that's in front of one of these supercells right here. Talking about central Georgia here now. Pretty not too bad sounding there for them. Another very supportive sounding for significant tornadoes. 300 SRH and nearly 2,000 Cape. What about South Central Mississippi here? Another pretty supportive sounding. Never a good thing when you have a widespread area. I mean, this event's going to be extremely widespread, folks. The QLCS is going to have a risk all the way up into central Arkansas there. Maybe a little bit further north. That's pretty good. Let's look here. Yep, that's a pretty good sounding for tornadoes and wind and some hail. Okay, that's not a good thing. 3,000 Cape again. Pretty high SRH, except the lower levels are lacking just a tiny bit, but still, that'll do it. Let's look at the GEFS on College of DuPage here. This has been something I really like looking at recently. First, we'll start off with looking at okay, so Wednesday morning we have supercell composite of, let's see here, 5 or so. And then we have a pretty widespread area. The ensembles are really disagreeing on where the biggest threat is. They have some in Arkansas, some in Mississippi, some in Alabama at this point. But 0Z here, once we shift over to the 0Z, they're agreeing that the biggest threat's going to be into Alabama and Mississippi. Then the next day, they start to see a threat in the Carolinas right here, and in here. Oh, that's pretty interesting. I'm not going to look any further than that. Let's look at the RAP on College of DuPage 2 as well, because the RAP on here is very, very good. In my opinion, the RAP on College of DuPage is better than Pivotal because you can zoom into regional sections, so we might see some contaminated soundings here, but why don't I try to pull one where there's not as much rain? We'll pull a few here. We'll pull one right here. Okay, so the only problem with this is the veer back right here, which I've talked about before, but if you're new, if the HODA like re-elapses itself, it's called veer back. But other than that, the only other thing is the lower level lapse rates are a bit marginal because of the stable surface, but still, that's a pretty supportive sounding for tornadoes. This has a lot of energy, so that would be supportive. This again is pretty supportive. I believe that second one I pulled in like Mississippi or something like that, or maybe like Alabama, I don't know. As you can see here, the RAP is really favoring a QLCS late night tonight, and the models have been trending further west, so that gets me to think that they might push the moderate a bit further to the northwest, so we'll have to see about that. Something else that scares me is I have family that live in this risk, so that's not a good thing. Let's look at this risk at this point in the morning. That's not a good sounding, so I'm going to click out of it. Pretty supportive. A lot of instability. Nearly 200 SRH, 70 dew points. That'll do it. Let's look at the UD helicity swaths for the whole run here. Boom. So this whole run here, let's just look at it from the continental United States. So it wants to nail Oklahoma and them. It wants to nail southern Illinois and Missouri along that triple point. It wants to nail this area overnight tonight. It wants to nail everywhere in the southeast. Yeah, that's not a good look at all. Very significant. I'm just going to look at the 850 more. Yeah, that's pretty interesting at that point. If we go back to earlier, you have a classic 500 millibar shortwave here at 0Z. Look at how classic. That's a classic signature for a Dixie tornado outbreak right in through this half of the jet energy. And pretty significant, honestly. But that's going to do it for this one. Hope you all enjoyed.